You probably know the names of Wall Street's great men: J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Vanderbilt, men in suits, men in banks, men with railroads, steel, oil, and entire cities depending on them. But during America's wildest age of money, there was one woman Wall Street could not ignore. They mocked her. They feared her. They called her cheap. They called her strange. They called her the Witch of Wall Street. But while the men of Wall Street were gambling, borrowing, panicking, and collapsing, she was sitting on cash. And when everyone else needed money, they came to her. Her name was Hetty Green. And she did not beat Wall Street by being louder than the men. She beat them by refusing to play their stupidest game. 1. Wall Street hated her because she did not need them. Hetty Green was born in 1834 into a wealthy Quaker family in New Bedford, Massachusetts. But she was not raised like a decorative rich girl. She was raised around money. Child, she listened to financial conversations. She read business papers. She learned shipping, bonds, interest, debts, and property. At an age when many girls were taught how to marry well, Hetty was learning something far more dangerous: how money actually works. And Wall Street was not ready for a woman like that. Because Hetty did not enter finance trying to impress men. She did not dress to please them. She did not flatter them. She did not spend like them. She did not gamble like them. She walked into a world built by men and basically said, "I do not need your approval. I need your numbers." That alone made her terrifying. Because Wall Street could handle a woman being rich. What it could not handle was a woman being right. Act 2. The men speculated. She waited. The Gilded Age was a beautiful disaster. Railroads were booming. Banks were expanding. Trust companies were growing. Fortunes were being made overnight. And whenever fortunes are made overnight, people start believing they are geniuses. Men borrowed heavily. They chased hot stocks. They bought railroads they barely understood. They made deals with other men who were also pretending to understand. Everything was fast. Everything was loud. Everything was leveraged. Hetty Green moved differently. She liked cash. She liked bonds. She liked mortgages. She liked real estate. She liked buying things when desperate people had to sell. That sounds boring. But boring is underrated. Because when markets are rising, boring people look stupid. The gambler looks brilliant. The borrower looks bold. The man taking huge risks looks like a visionary. Until the panic comes. Then suddenly, boring becomes powerful. Hetty understood something most Wall Street men kept forgetting. The person with cash during a panic is not the coward. The person with cash is the predator. Act 3. Her real strategy was patience. Hetty Green was not trying to win every day. That was her edge. Most people in finance want to feel smart right now. They want the hot deal, the impressive return, the social status, the story they can tell at dinner. Hetty wanted something simpler. She wanted to survive, and survival in money is not passive. Survival is a strategy. It means not being forced to sell when prices are terrible. It means not needing approval from bankers. It means not depending on optimism. It means keeping enough liquidity so that when everyone else is begging, you can choose. That was Hetty's real weapon. Not charm, not connections, not a famous banking house. Liquidity. Cash when others had none. In a boom, cash looks lazy. In a crisis, cash becomes a throne. Act 4. They called her cheap because they could not call her wrong. The press loved turning Hetty Green into a character. They wrote about her black dress, her frugality, her refusal to spend like other rich people, her strange habits, her harsh personality. They called her the Witch of Wall Street. And yes, Hetty was famously frugal, sometimes extremely so. But notice what happens here. When a rich man is ruthless with money, people call him disciplined. When a woman is ruthless with money, people call her unnatural. A man who refuses waste is strategic. A woman who refuses waste is a miser. A man who keeps cash is prudent. A woman who keeps cash is strange. The nickname was not just about her personality. It was about punishment. Wall Street did not know what to do with a woman who would not perform wealth the way society expected. She did not want to look rich. She wanted to stay rich. That is a very different game. Act 5, the panic comes. Then came the kind of moment that reveals who actually understands money. The Panic of 1907. Banks trembled. Trust companies collapsed. Depositors lined up. Credit froze. Wall Street's confidence cracked. The same men who looked invincible during the boom were suddenly desperate for cash. This is the part of financial history people forget. Panics are not just about falling prices. Panics are about the sudden discovery that everyone borrowed too much from everyone else. The whole machine depends on confidence. And when confidence disappears, the people who looked richest yesterday may not have enough cash tomorrow. That is when Hetty Green became impossible to ignore. Because she had done the one thing everyone else laughed at. She had kept money liquid. While others were trapped in deals, loans, and speculation, Hetty had cash and high-quality assets. So when the panic hit, she was not begging. She was lending. Act 6. When Wall Street needed money, it came to her. During financial panics, money changes personality. In normal times, money is just money. In a panic, money becomes oxygen, and Hetty had oxygen. She lent to financiers. She lent against strong collateral. She helped provide liquidity when others were frozen. New York City itself reportedly came to her for money more than once, including during crisis periods, because Hetty had what the system needed most. Cash. Imagine that. A woman mocked by the press as a miser. A woman dismissed as odd. A woman who did not belong in the gentlemen's clubs. And then the gentleman's system starts choking. Suddenly, her cheapness looks like discipline. Her weirdness looks like independence. Her fear looks like foresight. This is the dirty secret of finance. In good times, people worship risk. In bad times, they beg for discipline. Hetty had discipline. Act 7. She beat them by not needing to be seen winning. Most Wall Street men wanted power, you could see. Buildings, clubs, dinner parties, newspaper praise, big speculative victories. Hetty Green's power was quieter. It was in ledgers, bonds, mortgages, cash reserves, debt claims, patient ownership. She did not need to look like the winner every day. That is why she could win over decades. There is a brutal lesson here. Many people lose money because they cannot stand looking boring. They need action. They need status. They need to prove they are smart. They need the market to applaud them. Hetty did not need applause. She needed terms, good collateral, cheap prices, strong claims, enough margin of safety. This made her extremely hard to beat. Because you can pressure someone who needs attention. You can flatter someone who needs approval. You can trap someone who needs to look rich. But a person who only cares about the deal, that person is dangerous. Act 8. Her greatest advantage was refusing the trap. This is where her story fits Hidden Ledger. Because Hetty Green's life is not just a story about a rich woman. It is a story about avoiding the oldest money trap in the world, Figo. Wall Street was full of men trying to prove something. Prove they were bold. Prove they were connected. Prove they were richer than the next man. Prove they could borrow more, build bigger, risk harder. Hetty refused that trap. She did not buy status if it weakened her balance sheet. She did not chase deals because everyone else was excited. She did not let society tell her that wealth had to be performed. She understood that the most expensive purchase is not a house. It is not a car. It is not a luxury dress. The most expensive purchase is the need to impress people. Because once you buy that, you will keep paying forever. Wall Street's best men often wanted to be admired. Hetty wanted to be solvent. That is why she lasted. Act 9. The system tried to turn her into a joke. After her death, a lot of stories about Hetty Green focused on her miserliness. The old dress, the cheap meals, the strange habits, the refusal to spend. Some stories may be exaggerated. Some may be true. Some were probably sharpened by a press that loved making powerful women look ridiculous. But either way, the framing is interesting. Because if you reduce Hetty Green to the Witch of Wall Street, you do not have to face the more uncomfortable truth. She was better at money than many men who were celebrated as financial geniuses. She understood compound interest. She understood liquidity. She understood panic. She understood collateral. She understood that a fortune is not just made by making money. It is made by not being forced to lose it. That is not as cinematic as a market corner or a railroad empire. But it is much more durable. Act 10. What she understood that people still miss. Hetty Green's story is over a century old, but the trap she avoided is still everywhere. People still confuse spending with success. They still confuse leverage with intelligence. They still confuse optimism with strategy. They still confuse being busy with being right. And they still underestimate cash until they desperately need it. This happens in markets. It happens in businesses. It happens in personal finance. When everything is going well, people think cash is boring. Then the crisis hits. A job disappears. A payment comes due. An investment collapses. A loan resets. A business slows down. Suddenly, the boring cushion becomes freedom. That was Hetty Green's secret. She did not just want more money. She wanted options. And options are what cash gives you. The option not to sell. The option to wait. The option to buy when others panic. The option to say no. That last one may be the most valuable. Because the person who cannot say no can be priced. The person who can say no sets the price. Act 11. She was not a perfect hero. Now this does not mean Hetty Green was perfect. She was not. She could be harsh. She could be extreme. Her frugality could become almost self-punishing. Some stories about her personal life are uncomfortable. This is not a fairy tale. But that actually makes the story more useful. Because the point is not to copy Hetty Green's life. The point is to understand the machine she refused to enter. She lived in an age where rich people competed to look richer. She chose not to. She lived in a market where men borrowed to look powerful. She chose liquidity. She lived in a world that expected women to depend on men financially. She chose control. That was the real rebellion. Not loud rebellion. Financial rebellion. 12. The lesson Wall Street still hates. The lesson of Hetty Green is not, be cheap. The lesson is, do not let the world decide what your money is for. If your money exists to impress people, it will leave you. If your money exists to protect your freedom, it will work differently. Hetty Green understood that. That is why the men could laugh at her clothes, her habits, her personality, her nickname. But when the panic came, laughter did not matter. Cash mattered. Terms mattered. Discipline mattered. And she had all three. Wall Street's best men had clubs, banks, reputations, and headlines. Hetty Green had patience. And patience, when everyone else is panicking, is not a virtue. It is a weapon. Ending. So when people call Hetty Green the Witch of Wall Street, listen carefully. Because sometimes a nickname tells you more about the people saying it than the person receiving it. They called her a witch because she did something that looked unnatural to them. She kept control of her own money. She refused to perform wealth. She waited while men gambled. She bought when men begged. She stayed liquid while Wall Street drowned in confidence. And in the end, that is how she beat them. Not by being louder. Not by being nicer. Not by being accepted. She beat them by needing less. Less approval. Less status. Less applause. Less borrowed money. Less permission. That is, the part Wall Street never knows how to price. If you want more stories about the hidden traps behind money, status, debt, and power, subscribe to Hidden Ledger. And tell me in the comments, who should we break down next? Because sometimes the biggest trap is not a fee, a subscription, or a credit card. Sometimes the biggest trap is wanting to look rich so badly that you forget how to stay free. And that is the Hidden Ledger.